also explain the neck to African Union, which is our mother country, and which I think more days about some transformation and it is there's a reason why it's very essential because most of them must understand that as we do what there's a legal institution is informed by legal dictated by institutions. So it's not just about us. Legal institutions. We're trying to solve problems. So this is important to be efforts. It's a difficult exercise and bringing together many candidates into one issue can be
That's great. Thanks very much. And I got the chance, of course, to interact with some teams and some of the initiatives.
African countries so that we can be listed somewhere. We will not suffer this brain drain if we have Africans to sponsor, to invest in R&D, to invest in this process of patenting.
Thanks. Now let me come back a little bit again to our institutional and country context. Maybe Patrick, given the ground you have covered in TIA and the local innovation system, you elaborate a little bit of some of the challenges and the strengths or successes that you've had in trying to get that system going, because I also try to promote this narrative over and over again that the system is a function of how the individual elements of that system work, how efficiently they function optimally, and how they interact effectively between them and other elements of that system. Just a little bit of a journey and successes and challenges of TIA and the national
Thanks to you. So it's a little privileged, but I also come battered from that journey because I've been part of it for a while. And in TIA, we started TIA in 2009, and our mandate was to support and stimulate commercialization of publicly funded research output from publicly funded IT. That's a common. Now, in 2009 around, the South African ecosystem, I would characterize it as pretty makes sense at the time. With a lot of, we have 23 universities to start with. The point that my colleague was raising around contents in the research output. I think there was quite a bit coming out in South Africa at the time, but we struggled with commercialization and making sure that these products coming out of that are going to the market. And the challenges at the time were just the basic culture of innovation was not existent. We were just coming out of a patent pilot. So the mindset was different. We had strong financial system, predominantly commercial banks, the most sophisticated at least. And we compete very well with other emerging countries in that space, but they were risk averse and none of them would fund an idea in the first place. So, it was a system that was strong for no purposes for us. And so TIA was established as an instrument to intervene in that space. And now with the research community being our primary and main client, we found that there was little throughput from the universities that we were able to find. Most researchers would come to us and apply, and then the rate of rejection was just about 95%, 99%. Why? Because the profs also thought that they were startups, CEOs of startups, but they couldn't write a business plan, I'm honest. And they were used to applying for research publications and so on, support for research publications. So we had to come in and develop an instrument that would enable researchers to submit blank for us to find. And these things, we'll be looking at the technical economies of concept. We must come with tell us how we're going to get to the prototype development and so on and so on. So we had to build that system as a start to make sure that it's in place, people receive support to be able to write bankable proposals, etc. So that was important for us. But what we've learned now is that we're struggling a bit for pipeline from the universities. And part of the reason for that, there's a lot of research coming up, but it doesn't seem to address some of the challenges that we're trying to solve at the same time. Now, our diagnosis is a simple one. Our non
Apa Indonesia bisa benefit?
Mental development, you're not going to have the right kind of throughput that's going to give you proof of concepts. And this is kind of the fodder for TIA industry interest. And it's an important point that the spending that we see in that space increases. And so those are some of the challenges. But what we've done to solve a bit of that, we established a program called the Seed Fund. We are partnering with the offices of technology transfer. We've got 23 in the country. They are increasing by the day, but the science councils are also into some of these. They are our implementing partners. They recruit them for projects in the universities. They evaluate and they bring to us. We assess a little bit with them, and then we fund that. So I think there's a bit of traction in that space. The challenge is that we face now, and we're receiving a lot of criticism, by the way, and good luck. And it's about commercialization, and this is what I think society wants to see: products in the market, startups succeeding, reduce rate of failure, and so those are the kind of metrics that we could get measured on over time. And it's important that I think society demonstrates a little bit of patience and understanding to understand the complexity of the system that is required to make the country succeed in that journey. So we're trying to work really, really hard to enhance our commercialization efforts. And I think we're pretty okay so far. We still need to do a lot of that. Your startups is a big agenda now for us. So we're putting instruments that are specifically designed to support startups. No longer only research output, product, so the prototype development and so on. We're looking really downstream the value chain in terms of the support instruments that we are providing. So I think we're seeing a bit of traction in that. And so that is important. The danger that we're trying to manage is as follows, and I'll say this later on when we talk about that. It is important that as innovators, researchers, startups, and so on, you have a good appreciation of what the country's policy agenda is. And you must lock yourself into it, because it has been designed for a purpose. It's not a theoretical document that is being. If they say we need to invest more money in this particular sector, you need to mobilize yourself and focus on supporting that sector, innovating in that particular sector, because there is a risk. And so it's more about aligning a lot of the funding instruments, because that's what we do, right? We incentivize people to follow that discourse through incentives. And then we prioritize investments in that particular sector. But those that get excluded, then there's always an outcry, so we're going to have to deal with that as well. The one thing that we don't want to deal with is people whose applications have been rejected. I don't know how much you're going to be dealing with that. And those are stakeholders that tend to really spread negative sentiment and so on. But as long as people understand that Kenya exists for the purpose of saying to them, your idea is working or not going to work, and it's just part of the job. When you say no, it doesn't mean you're rejecting somebody. You're just saying it ain't going to work because we've got the expertise to assess that. And so we still have the VC system in South Africa that is developed, but not so transformed. And there's as part of our commercialization agenda, we're strengthening the ecosystem at the front end to make sure that we've got good support intermediaries. Venture capital is very, very important. Our venture capital has been very adverse, like in many other places, to early stage projects. They want projects where they reach a certain level, I think, of demonstration where they can to get profit and get these to market very quickly. We just need to understand our responsibility as TIA, that our role is to de-risk early stage technologies, focus our funds there, but build partnerships with industry, build partnerships with venture capital, but also support the growth of venture capital. So that's a challenge we face. We're trying to build a pool of black fund managers by design and making sure that they are part of this, because they better understand the developmental challenges of people living in rural communities, solutions that live in rural communities. Because your conventional VC tends to focus on blockbuster stuff, right? High-tech stuff. But your people in rural communities who develop solutions that solve the existential challenges where they are. Somebody may see this as something small, frugal innovation, so they tend to ignore it. But when you think about it, it's actually a solution that not only solves that community's challenge, because in the continent we've got similar challenges, because the continent is poor generally. And so there's a massive application for those kinds of solutions. But you want to develop a VC system that is responsive to those kinds of innovative solutions and so on. So those are, complex challenges. There are many really, but we're trying. But we are fully aware of the monster that we are dealing with. Yes.
I'm glad that the keywords there was around commercialization, startups. That's going to be the output that somehow you're going to produce. I'm just realizing that time is not on our side, and we've got about 5 minutes. Susan, I'll ask you to comment around the vision around setting up an innovation agency. How you start playing out in your context. But I'm happy to take 1 or 2 questions to the audience, and then we will use that to wrap up because it looks like we only have 5 minutes left. If anyone has a question, please go ahead and raise your hand. And the team that has a mic is, I can see them running. So your hand is up. Anybody else? Okay, so we've got 1 question. And then Susan, you could just tell me whether you, as a country, you're seeing a pathway towards an innovation agency. Because one of the goals that I have a dream about is like trying to create a stronger connection between the various innovation agencies. And in the event there is it, of course, how do we start structuring a regional engagement? Just go ahead. Okay, fine. I think just go ahead. Okay, I can see now 2 questions. Just go ahead and comment on that. Your pathway towards an innovation agency, then we take the 2 questions.
Okay, great. So in our institutional arrangement, we have the innovation department. So we work towards having a robust innovation ecosystem that encompasses and addresses all the issues of startups and commercialization. And within our institution, we're trying to create a robust venture capital agency. We have people in Seychelles, businessmen in Seychelles, who do not know that they can contribute towards startups' growth. So that's what we're trying to create there. We're trying to have them come in as mentors, as advisors, so that we can create a fund that can support the startups. Because the banks there do not support, like everywhere else, they don't give financing to startups. So we're trying to create another avenue for having them funded. We have a seed capital grant that is an equivalent of 2 million Kenya shillings per applicant, which is still not enough for them to be able to carry out their commercialization. We have a challenge also with laboratory facilities. We have we've been working in collaboration with DSI. Actually, we signed a memorandum of understanding, government to government, with the South African government. So we are planning to sign an institution to institution one with DSI for us to be able to use their laboratory facilities, for us to be able to have these startups commercialized. So that's our biggest challenge, but we have a system that is coming up. We have our national innovation system that we are trying to work on, but we have a policy. We have an STI policy. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. That gives us a sense of the flavor. So I'll take the 2 questions and then we'll try to react a little bit as we close the session.
Yes. The dilemma we have in Africa is which pathway to follow. The reason why we don't have many patents is because we are not investing enough on experimental and developmental research. The approach of research in Africa is to fill a gap of knowledge, not a gap of patent. I'm sure you'll agree with me from the South Africa. So if we want...
You shoot the question.
Yes.
Shoot the question.
It's a comment.
Okay.
So if we really want to really make an impact at the level of our development, we should think more and apply the research to answer questions and start up to create solutions and jobs for our people. So you have to follow the pathway that either you want to solve our community priorities in terms of getting solution of our challenges and creating jobs. That's why the importance of startup is at the level of our development. And we should think more, thinking more in terms of the East and not the West.
Okay.
Exactly. And then to produce product rather than investing more in experimental and developmental research and to be able to patent it I'm not saying that we should discard that. Actually, we should have that in our agenda, but moving it concurrently with the efforts which we need. That's why we'll be able to.
Thanks very much. Dr. Hart, you had a question, and then we'll close right there. Unfortunately, asking more hands, but time doesn't seem to favor us, though. Yeah.
Thank you, panel, for sharing your experiences with us. My question is directed to Patrick. Thanks for laying out very clearly the challenges we have encountered so far trying to engage with commercialization. And I fully agree, basic science and applied science must continue, we need drug development and all the rest of it. But I'd like to follow up on your point about going out to the counties and thinking more about developmental aspects. And I wonder, do you have a different track trying to address that? So for example, perhaps a challenge-oriented approach where you have a problem, you put forward a grant that is around a challenge that you definitely know they will get uptake because it's relevant for the development. Because I think we really need to granulate the solutions we create. So that's one thing. And the second point, very quickly, is you said you're trying to think around a VC fund for early stage. And I think this is very, very timely because we need something specific to the African context. Thank you.
I would really have wanted to give more time to this discussion. And unfortunately, time, God didn't give us more than we need. I can see that the panel that is coming through is already set. If we stagger on, we will have to stagger on everything. So what I'm going to suggest is that these two panelists are available. The conversations, of course, are going. We want to provoke as many discussions as possible. And so we can handle this after this session. So it's my humble honor to invite now Harry to take over this session. Are you ready? Thank you. So let's give a round of applause to our panelists who helped us to see a little bit of the regional issues and cross-country issues. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony. How are you guys? Good morning. You didn't have breakfast? I think there's breakfast everywhere here. Good morning. Awesome. So thank you very much for being early today and following the proceedings. So we're on the next panel, and we'll be talking about inclusivity in innovation. This is a big topic now. A lot of organizations have started thinking about bringing everybody into the innovation engine, basically. How do we innovate together? How do we bring different voices, different people who are otherwise excluded from the innovation ecosystem to play a role? And that's a discussion that we're going to have this morning. And I have a very able panel of people who've been there, done that, and bought a t-shirt. So I'm gonna bring my panel up here, then we get going. So first I want to invite Jill Clements, who's the Deputy Ambassador from Ireland, Embassy of Ireland, Nairobi. Give her a round of applause, please. Then I'll invite George Okeo to join us on stage. Makofi tafadhali. Mika, I promised him I'm not going to mention to pronounce his second name. So Mika, Michael, join us on stage. And engineer Mutogi, karibu. Okay, so that's my panel. But before we go to the panel discussion, I want to invite Balozi Jill to come and give us her keynote.
Good morning, colleagues. How are we today? Good. Breakfast is needed. I did have breakfast. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been watching all the activity on Twitter and seeing colleagues attend this really busy and exciting week here at the Sarah Center. And just to have a week to showcase and to demonstrate the incredible ingenuity that exists in Kenya, I think is a fantastic opportunity for all of us to learn and to share. So the reason that the Embassy of Ireland is here is because we really try to, in all of our work, embrace and support in our partnership with Kenya and wherever we might exist around the world in our various embassies, to really look at ways in which we can strengthen innovation, diversity, and inclusion in our partnerships. So it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm actually joining the week after Young Scientists Kenya also highlighted their national exhibition showing the incredible ingenuity and creativity of Kenyan youth, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it's been a couple of weeks here at CERET, really demonstrating what Kenya offers the world and what it does in partnership. So investing in innovation and embracing diversity and inclusion is an essential component of supporting an enterprising and productive economy from the Irish perspective. Ireland recognizes this and is already leading the way across many areas of innovation in health, technology, climate, and consistently ranking among the top innovators in the European Union and globally. We have things like Project Ireland 2040, which recognizes that as a small island nation with a population of essentially the size of Nairobi, approximately 5 million, that's going to change dramatically over the coming years, not just in terms of climate change, but also in terms of our demographics and our desire to encourage inward migration and the change that will bring to our economy and to our people. So we are really trying to look ahead and make sure that we are fit for the future, both in terms of diversity, but also in terms of adaptation. We also have something called Global Ireland 2025, and it's about doubling our global footprint. And it's really around embracing diversity, saying that we have a role to play in the world, sharing our culture, sharing our ideas, sharing our innovations, but also we, in order to do that well, need to embrace and partner and collaborate with others. So that's a real, for us, what diversity and inclusion also represents. We also have, though only 5 million on the island, we have a 70 million strong diaspora. So for us, embracing the incredible work that the diaspora do and that the way in which they engage with the countries where they exist is really important. Ireland's research and innovation strategy puts research and innovation at the heart of addressing our own social, economic, and environmental challenges. The current and recent economic, social, environmental challenges that we all face in this multipolar world and now in our global community are underscored more than ever with the need for ingenuity and creativity and the need to embrace all forms of diverse thinking. So we need to be creative and innovative in order to address these challenges, whether they be the next industrial revolution, whether they be the impacts of climate, whether they be the impacts of global migration, and how we embrace those opportunities, not just look at them as negatives. Kenya and Ireland have a very close relationship. We co-authored and negotiated the Sustainable Development Goals. So hopefully everything that we're working towards here this week and last week at Young Scientists Kenya are all about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We don't have very many years left to 2030. We have a lot to do in that time. And already you can can see what innovation, what science, technology, engineering, math, creativity, ingenuity, collaboration have brought to the SDGs. We need to continue to drive that and invest in that. The impact of COVID-19, conflict, disasters, which the Horn of Africa is not immune to, require that we really look at ways in which we can address these issues in a timely manner, much more timely than we've done so far. They also these kinds of crises tend to impact people in an unfair and unequal way. So for Ireland, really looking at the way in which we embrace the focus on the needs of marginalized groups, of groups that don't always have a voice, of groups who need to have additional support and investment in order to engage in the new economy, engage in new ways of thinking, and help to strengthen that is really important. Without concerted action, I think we'll see reversals and gains towards the SDGs, and those will disproportionately affect persons with disabilities, they'll affect women and girls, they'll affect women groups that are marginalized. So we need to ensure that all of our policies and our strategies are inclusive. As Ireland, we view inclusion as both a fundamental human right and a necessary requirement for sustainable development. And I think we can say that Kenya, as a co-negotiator of the SDGs, would also embrace that sort of thinking. We certainly work with Kenya in that way, trying to look at ways in which we can ensure that inclusion and diversity are critical and central to all of our partnerships. We have a policy for international development work, which is called A Better World. And it very much puts at the center a commitment to leave no one behind, which is a core part of the Sustainable Development Goals. However, we try to take that a step further, and we really push to ensure that we reach the furthest behind first. In general, we try to look at, we're sort of going against the grain around the drip-fed economy or the top-down approach. We really are looking at bottom-up and really are looking at the way in which to ensure that the reaching the furthest behind first is central. We focus on the delivery of services to the most vulnerable, and particular focuses on improved outcomes for women and girls, minorities, and the inclusion of people with disabilities. This forms the basis for championing inclusivity, diversity, and gender equality. In order to do so, we must have a nuanced understanding how multiple forms of discrimination and exclusion may intersect, worsening inequalities and making it more challenging to reach the most marginalized. No one's saying that this is easy or straightforward. No one's saying it's the thing that comes later. What we're saying is it needs to be our focus. It's hard work, and we have to do it together. And it requires ingenuity and creativity and innovation, not just in sciences, but in how we make sure that no one's marginalized from accessing STEM education, from accessing the economy, from being able to escape hunger and be able to lift themselves out of poverty. So Ireland has a vision to become a global innovation leader in driving a strong and inclusive, sustainable economy and a better society. We can't do that alone. We do that in collaboration and partnership. And we do that in many different places and in many different ways. In Kenya, we are working with a variety of partners to really try and enhance and support the country's efforts to be innovative and creative. That's through development, research, science, and technology. A couple of examples. I already mentioned Young Scientists Kenya. Ireland is the co-funder with the Ministry of Education on Young Scientists Kenya, something we are enormously proud of because it aims to empower young people to be inspired by and engaged in science, technology, engineering, and maths. It tries to build their STEM skills and build a lifelong commitment to that kind of career path. This is not based on a random idea. This is based on evidence. And I think that's something that we all need to be thinking about when we're looking at what interventions work, when we're looking at diversity, inclusion, and innovation. has contributed directly and with evidence to the transformation of Ireland's economy, a rural agriculture-based economy, which is now a leader in innovation in the digital space, in fintech, in health sciences. This particular area of work where we worked with students in secondary schools to highlight and demonstrate the great ideas that they have, bringing them together in the thousands in Ireland in January, actually, in 2023, and some of our young scientist team will go there, is a phenomenal way to really inspire young people to take up science and technology. And you will see the impact and the transformation on the economy as a result. So Young Scientists Kenya has reached over 200,000 students from over 600 schools in all 47 counties. Yes, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think they have done a phenomenal job. And of course, they've been impacted by COVID. In 2018-19 was the first exhibition. Hundreds of kids from across the country came here to KICC and demonstrated the incredible ingenuity that exists in the Kenya education system. And they were able to show how important their work is and their ideas are. Many of them have gone on to study through scholarships that Young Scientists Kenya offers at universities and be able to continue that pathway. It's a really heartwarming and moving, but also impactful, clear demonstration of the impact of education on the economy and on bettering society. Because what a lot of these kids are looking at is ways in which they can positively contribute to their communities, to their societies, and to the world, to the big existential challenges that we all face. So it's really inspiring to see them. So just last week, right here at Sarah Center, YSK hosted its 5th national exhibition. And for 3 days, they held their first ever hybrid, still sort of picking up after COVID and trying to look at ways that we can be digitally savvy as well as in person. There's nothing that replaces, though, as much as I love technology, there's nothing that replaces kids meeting together, sharing their ideas, and sharing their incredible projects. They came, there's 406 students who submitted their projects from 37 counties, 203 innovative projects. They had 80 young innovators who came to the Sarah Center, and awards were handed out. So the team have gone out to visit 20 out of the 23 marginalized counties, 2 schools in the informal settlements of Nairobi, 14 special needs education schools. 56% of the schools visited were girls' schools. So we're really trying to put an emphasis on leaving no learner behind and really embracing girls in STEM. There is so much potential in Kenya, and we can see that through Young Scientists Kenya. So I'm particularly excited about the future for Young Scientists Kenya and encourage all of you to engage with it, whether you have kids in the secondary school system or you yourself are an innovator, an entrepreneur, a scientist who wants to lend your ideas, your mentoring skills, you want to join us. It is a wave that is underway, and we really need your ideas and your energy. Ireland also supports work in the agriculture sector. We're working with Calro to look at ways in which we can enhance innovations in the dairy sector through climate smart research, with a focus on looking at the ways in which we can build up women in the agriculture sector. We're also supporting women in trade, trying to reduce the barriers to trade and really embrace and capture women's creativity, small entrepreneurs, and in the agriculture sector. There's so much going on there where women are driving and leading export markets as well as small creative markets here in Kenya. And that's something that we really need to sort of work more on. So I just want to end here and say that there is an enormous potential in Kenya to embrace the skills and the energy and the ideas. Young Scientists Kenya is only one idea. The ecosystem is growing. It's something where collaboration, not competition, needs to be embraced. There's so many different ways in which we can support kids today through the education system and through their own ideas that we really need to work together to do that. One of the ways that I think Ireland's innovation has, innovation dedication, resilience has been through the fact that we've faced our own challenges with hunger and with famine, with conflict on the island of Ireland, with colonialism and the ways in which that has impacted our society and our culture. And we have a lot we can offer, but we also recognize that as a small island nation, we really need to work collaboratively and together to lift up these ideas and to work as a global community. As one of Ireland's key champions for diversity, John Hume, noted, the answer to difference is to respect it. The most fundamental principle of peace and of a sustainable future is respect for diversity. Difference is the essence of humanity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brother for that keynote. I want to testify that I attended the Young Scientist Kenya, and it was an amazing event. Probably next year, Tony, we need to figure out how to incorporate that into the Kenya Innovation Week.
We're here.
Yeah, like in a big way. Okay, good. So we will go straight now into the panel. And I want to give this opportunity to my panelists to just do a quick opening remarks, and then we get on to into the discussion. I start with you, Mika.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. It's been a really great event these 3 days. So I'm a little bit sad that it's going to end today, but we still have a good program. So yes, my name is Mika Varitalo. I'm based in Finland. I work for Fingo, which is the umbrella organization for NGOs. And we are particularly working in Eastern Africa with lots of INGOs and also national NGOs, helping them to utilize innovation, technology, and private sector collaboration. And I can see many familiar faces here. There's a kind of a delegation of civil society and NGO representatives who have been over the past years experimenting with technology, innovation, and are also showcasing the role of civil society in this matter. We also want us to talk about about the topic itself.
Yes, it's just a quick remark, opening remarks about the topic.
When we talk about inclusion, there are multiple angles, and likely we have a bit of time to go deeper, but I just want to take one of those, and that's disability inclusion. We had a great discussion on that yesterday in our side event, and the numbers are staggering. In the world globally, there are way more than 1 billion people living with disabilities at the moment. And only 1 of 10 have real access to assistive technologies that are so fundamentally important so that people can get education, they can get to work, they can be active participants in their society, they can become leaders, and so forth. So it's really, on one side, it's human rights issue to give people equal chance. But on the other side, it's also a huge opportunity for innovators and companies, since so much frugal assistive technologies are needed. And when we talk about diversity, you just cannot design new technologies and tools without including those that it really matters. So having people with disabilities in the companies, in the groups that are designing this, and testing with those people is definitely needed. Otherwise, it will go wrong. So that's one of the examples why diversity is very important.
Let me just, I'm just going to go through some brief presentation. This company, this is projected. Oh, yes. So my name is Mike Mutungi. I'm the CEO of I Choose Life Africa. You can hear me? All right. Okay. And I Choose Life Africa focuses on empowering youth, And today, my angle to inclusion will be focusing on youth because of some reasons I'll be given. Let me begin by asking a question. Do you know who started Akamba? How many have ever heard about Akamba bus service? Used to be there, okay. Now, who do you think started that company? Anybody who can guess or where they're from? This was a big success story. Harry, do you guess? No? Okay. It was actually my dad. Yeah. It was my father. My father, before 1963, I hear the stories that we used to have over 9 vehicles, lorries, buses, and the story goes that he was planning to purchase the railway line to come from Nairobi to go all the way to Machakos. So, and my older brother, when they came from home, you know what they used to do? Their primary work after coming from school would be to count money. You know, money in sacks, because you know there used to be coins, and so he would gather his friends and they would come and count money. You know, immediately. So you can imagine that as a pastime. I don't know how you would like that, huh? Counting money is your pastime after school. But you know, a Kamba bus by service was taken away from him. And somebody else understood about the intellectual property, took it, and right now, you do not relate anything to do with somebody who can, like me, related with the account. And I'm just saying that because there are many who are I'll tell you the story of Peter. Peter Mariki is a guy who lives in Kibera. He's that a lot of enterprises, particularly for young people, they don't, in the first year, you have 50% mortality rate, in the second year, 15%. I think for me, as we have this conversation, is moving away from, I think we all know basically the fact, is asking what do we need to do to change the story. And, you know, so some of the pictures that really, they have been, you know, we make sure they come and be part of the Kenya Innovation Week. One of the exciting things that I was during our stand, we had girls from Isiani girls, high school girls from 3, who had come up with an application that basically solves management of drugs in the healthcare system. And the president visited the stand and he joked and said, can you come and help fix cancer? These are for free kids. These are not like your University of Nairobi engineering department. So I'll just talk about ecosystem, and I hope we'll talk about this. If you're gonna have inclusion, what are things that being focused on the ecosystem? One is policy, second is finance, third is culture, fourth is support, fifth is human capital, and sixth is markets. You know, that's part of the ecosystem that we want to focus on. So with that, those are just my opening remarks.
Thank you very much for that. That gives us a very good background, actually. George?
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, my name is George. I'm one for the Mastercard Foundation. Mastercard Foundation is a private registered foundation in Canada, and our mission is around working with young people between the ages of 18 and 35. And our vision is really to enable work for young people across Africa. We've set ourselves very ambitious targets of enabling 30 million young people to actually attain dignified and fulfilling work. And just to put that in perspective, for instance, in Kenya, we've given ourselves a target of enabling 7 million young people to actually get into gainful employment. And even more ambitious, we want 70% of that be young women. So if you think about 7 million jobs, and then you take 70% of that, we're effectively saying that our work will be able to deliver at least 5 million work for young women. We work along 4 main thematic areas, which are basically agriculture, micro, small enterprises, workforce development, which is around scaling, reskilling, and skilling young people to get into work. And the last component is around how we can leverage the digital economy to create work for young people. One important attribute of our work is inclusion. And for us, inclusion means that we must engage all active participants that are required through the innovation process. And in this particular respect, we ensure that young people are in the room, we're talking about innovation, young women are in the room, people with disabilities are in the room, and some of the displaced individuals, especially the IDPs, are also in the room. And we do believe that if you have an active engagement and collaboration with all these groups, then we shall be able to achieve the desired impact of enabling work for young people. So this is really our perspective on inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jill, Ambassador Jill. Diversity and inclusion is now a big topic across the world. And you know, sometimes these trends and buzzwords are thrown all over the place. But then I'm wondering, with diversity and inclusion, and especially around innovation, why is it important? Why must we pay attention to it?
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much. Phenomenal panel to be on. So it's great to hear from everyone and be the only female on the panel. So we haven't achieved 50%. We're still a little bit of a panel. But it is an honor to be up here with all of you and to hear the great work that you're doing. I think that the word that I would say is intentional, and we talked about this earlier. I think the only way to embrace diversity in a genuine, concrete way is to intentionally build it in. And I really appreciate your ecosystem slide, because I think unless we're looking at all the different ways in which we need to address and be overt about what we do on inclusion and diversity and gender, we will have missed the boat along the way. So we need to be looking at the way in which the economy impacts. We need to be looking at culture. We need to be looking at policies and financial flows and all of these different elements. And so it really is being intentional about that. And so from an Irish perspective, you know, we'll generally look at a multi-track approach where we are both mainstreaming gender or disability or inclusion policies at the same time as directly supporting those entities that are working at the front line and or championing that, as well as bringing resources to the issue and being an advocate. So I think it's not, I said earlier, it's not a simple fix. It's not a one-off. It's not something that happens overnight. It really does need to be something that you embrace and live. And for us, it's the example of Young Scientists Kenya, which is a learner behind. It's about saying kids in secondary school, whatever school they happen to be in, and we know we've got a varied system in Kenya, you know, how do you ensure that there's kids that from all different walks of life get access to Young Scientists Kenya? How do we not leave no learner behind? How do we have awards and embrace and highlight and champion kids and special needs who have enormous creativity and innovation? So it really is about demonstrating that and walking that talk. I don't think any of us So we need to learn from one another and embracing the work as advocating with government to really embrace those policies, putting finances in the right place to ensure that the support systems are in place. It's a multifaceted approach.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good question. And we can look at the studies. The studies clearly show that diverse teams where people from different backgrounds are presented are more innovative. That's just the result. But then it's also good to see what prevents us from doing that. And if we, for example, look at gender equality, we can look at, for example, we have been talking a lot about digital and digital gap. So, but innovation gap and digital gaps are just on there, visible on the surface. And we need to look at what are the root causes. So, for example, girls and women are much less likely to finish primary school and secondary school and go to higher jobs in many countries. 2/3 of illiterate adults are women. And so there are fundamental reasons why then when we look at, for example, digital jobs or innovation, why different groups are not equally presented. There's, for example, also there's been a study with 14,000 girls and women in 31 countries. And the result was that 50% of girls and women have encountered online harassment online. And so when you look at how do we get people on board, do we get people excited about being part of it, and for example, innovating on digital skills, there are big societal questions that we also need to address, in addition to, for example, setting up innovation champions and competitions and so on. So this is one point that I wanted to highlight.
So the question, diversity.
Why is it? Sorry. Why is it important?
Yeah, why is it important? One, when I look at nature is diverse. God in his own wisdom, he made sure you have two ears, two hands. Because well, mouth is one, maybe we need to eat less than we see. But you know, diverse. I think for me the second thing is that it is a smart thing to do. If you're going to grow, if you're going to move faster, I think working across different ages, different sexes, different capabilities is what you want to do to create that acceleration in terms of economic growth. And so, you know, so I think that you has dividends when you have everybody included, everybody represented. Now, of course, the challenge is to be able to gather the data, to be able to say, you know, like this, what are the demographic, you know, profiles? If that's a future that we want, what essentially to achieve that future? Yeah.
So let me move to George, and George, you can contribute to that, to the why, but also I want you to start telling us the how. Because you see, we can talk about all these things, and they, you know, it's good to talk about them. But then, practically, how can an organization, for instance, you know, start or catalyze a diversity and inclusion program within an organization?
Yeah, I think, you know, for us from the foundation, you know, it's about being very intentional and deliberate and making sure that active participants or active individuals or target groups that are required to foster innovation are in the room, so that you give everybody an opportunity to listen attentively on what their views are, even if they are not have in the room. So from our perspective, we normally call this co-creation. Co-creation is about collaboration with people with diverse views of opinions, because it will foster creative ideas, and it will actually bring about ownership and accountability, and even bring about commitment to the process of innovation. Because if you where the innovation process is dominated by a small group of people, then you are unlikely to achieve the process or the impact of the innovation that you actually want to achieve. So I think it's about creative problem solving by bringing the diversity in the room, but also through what in our own lingua we call co-creation, which enhances collaboration. It opens up the communication channels, it builds trust, and creates an alignment, which is really critical for driving the innovation agenda. And because in many, we bring our partners in the room, but we also bring the voice of the marginalized, whether it's young people, whether it's people with disabilities, or whether they are refugees, or they are young, disenfranchised in many ways. So practically, this is the way we think about innovation being a collaborative process.
You want to? Yeah.
Yeah. One practical example from this civil society point of view, there have been quite successful projects. One that I've been involved in is called Smarter Factories. It's a kind of youth innovation and incubation project that sees youth from marginalized backgrounds that might be unemployed, have little education, not as a source of problems, as a source of innovation. So that, like my fellow colleagues have and panelists have here alluded, that innovation really doesn't belong only to high-tech companies or universities. It also belongs there. But it's very empowering for the youth that may not see the future in their life to be seen as an innovator, to be seen that around in their society, in their community, they can actually start solving problems. They can learn about, for example, human-centered design thinking, about experimentation, about trying something, failing, and not getting sanctioned, actually saying, okay, that was a learning, you can go forward. And in practice, 3 to 4 months of training where the youth can actually decide what they want to focus on, whether it is photography or arts, or web design, or many other things, and then they can start building their own solutions, have had tremendous empowering effect. I think many of you have seen in various programs the similar effect. And this not necessarily building a next global giant company, but this is really including a lot more people into the innovation process and solving the problems they see as important.
I'm open for questions. So if somebody, okay, no, you're not allowed. Microphone. I can see several questions. There's one here, there's one there, or two here. So we'll take, you guys, I'm sure you have memory more than GB. Respond to those. Look. So yeah, go ahead, introduce yourself and ask your question.
Thank you from, and my question is about the speed at which innovation will take place if we are to factor each and every person to be part of the process of innovating. We thought about the time it may take for us to be able to come up with a deliverable in innovation, because the stakeholders. Thank you.
So we take the other two questions here. That reminds me of a Swahili saying that goes like Jungu. No, I think wapishi wengi who something. Yeah. like
Too many
cooks
cooks spoil the broth.
Spoil the broth. Yeah.
Thank you, Harry. My question is to the Deputy Ambassador of Ireland, Veronica Combe, working with I Choose Life. For inclusivity, as much as we are really making steps, gender, I believe, still remains an issue. But we find that while ladies are more confident to talk and to stand up and to put their ideas and communicate what they think forward, issues around it still remains that men will still have stake, especially when it comes to something like negotiating for a better pay, having their innovation next stage. One of the I was reading somewhere, I think it's Harvard Review, they have a journal, and they were saying men will stand up and share an idea that they just thought about maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes ago. A woman working on an innovation or an idea for the last 10 years will still want it perfect before they get the confidence to share their idea. So how have you, in your experience, supported the gap when it comes to innovation, inclusivity, and creating women being in that space to create opportunities as far as work is concerned? Thank you.
That's a very good question. Sheena?
Hi, thanks, Harry, for giving me the chance. So my name is Sheena, and I wear different hats. So I'm the country director for the UK Kenya Tech Hub. I'm a board member at Kenya, and I co-chair a donor board. And my question will be a bit controversial, as Harry would probably anticipate. But it's actually everything you guys have been saying resonates, particularly MasterCard. And I agree, all of those things are super important. But can we ask ourselves really, as donors and people in positions of power, are we actually doing that on the ground? You know, in Kenya, we say, between our ground. Are we doing that? Because everything you've talked about, MasterCard Foundation, all the things you're doing, I know people in this room today, local Kenyan founders, under 30, young women, everything we're talking about, who are doing this. And they do not get the grants from MasterCard or us. I mean, now we have, but they don't get the grants that they need or the support that they need. And a lot of it is because the ticket sizes are too high, the due diligence requirements, etc. And to be honest, we put a lot of burden on the partners on the ground to meet our standards, whether they're Western, Asian, etc., instead of making it easy for them. So we talk about all of these things, but are we actually doing it in practice? Do we just sit in level panels and say we're doing all of these things? Because really, we should be doing smaller grants to a lot more organizations, supporting the whole ecosystem, instead of picking one or two donor darlings whom we love, who we bring out.
You see where just kidding. Okay, so three questions there. Okay.
Yep. One practical thing I want to TUI fund that is on our booth. They are supporting local social enterprises with small ticket sizes, between 500 to 5,000 at the starting level, but that's really working in the communities. And those who know about small social enterprises, please get connected to TUI fund. That's as a practical thing. About one point about the and what might not be as going forward as quickly. There's one example of what and also talking about how really create lasting change. The country of Finland used to have the first female president ever. All the other presidents have been male. And she said that there were many kids born in the era of her president. When she went to a school, there was a little boy asking the president, is it possible for a boy ever to become a president? Because that in anyone else than the female president.
Yeah.
Think about the power of the role models. So in terms of successful women leading startups, leading the innovation, it's tremendously important.
I think that also to the ambassador, deputy ambassador. Maybe you can respond to that as well.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for the question. Great question. The gaps continue to exist, and I think that we just have to keep pressing forward. But we're here in the 16 days of still having to have 16 days of activism to end gender-based. So we're still struggling to demonstrate that it's not okay to be violent against women and girls, and that's fundamentally our continued structural problem that we are trying to tackle. And I think, the work that we do on gender is all about tackling root causes, breaking down structural barriers, and challenging those on a daily basis. So we should be asking those tough questions around localization, around the way in which we fund, the way in which our financial systems flow. All of these are structural barriers in many ways. Unless we're challenging them and thinking about them and working through them, 50 years ago, Ireland joined the EU. 50 years ago, if I give up my job. So evolved in some places and not the way we are still fighting for gender equality in Ireland. We only recently, put in place, sort of equal marriage opportunity. We're still battling the same structural challenges. I think that's where the issues of collaboration, the issues of shared learning based on evidence, what's working, what's not, our time on those things that aren't working, and let's call it out. Let's always be calling it out. 16 days of activism, we need to get rid of that because we should be done with gender-based violence, but we're not. We're still here. We're still putting that forward. I really, Ireland has some of the first female presidents as well, and you will Mary Robinson, who has, continued to try and break down those barriers, whether it be on gender equality, on human rights, on, sort of ending violent conflict. And so we have to put up those champions. We have to look at ways in which we can highlight what they do. But the president, your president, has created a gender in his office. I think that has huge opportunity to really drive the gender equality agenda in Kenya, and we should all be supporting that office and championing its ability to advocate for more resources to flow to women's organizations that have been around for years that are already doing great work. And we should be putting more money at the local level, more resources to small enterprises, to women-led organizations and businesses, and really being deliberate and intentional in that approach.
Thank you. So Mike, I wanted to respond to the gentleman about with all this inclusion that we're talking about, how does that affect the output? The time to have an output, time to deliver. And Georgia wanted to actually respond to Sheena's. So we start with you, Mike.
And those final remarks. Slide.
Can you do it without the slide?
Please, if you don't.
Okay, so George.
Yeah.
Somebody.
So, question. I think you're saying that things on the ground are. That's the Kenyan phrase. So I think you may be right. I'll answer that question from our own perspective. So as a foundation, we have taken time to understand some of the root causes, those systemic barriers that are actually preventing young women to be engaged in business, access education, access skills, or access finance for forever livelihood opportunities that they want to engage in. And we are very intentional. So if you listen carefully to what I said earlier on, we have said targeting for all our programs, we are targeting benefits accrue to 70% young women. So for instance, if you want to enable 7 million jobs in Kenya, what you're saying is that 70% of that, which is 5 million, should actually go to young women. So if you look at our programs, we are targeting 70% to go to young women. And through our process with our local, we are very clear and deliberate that our beneficiaries, 70% of that should be young women. So just to give you an example, our collaboration with World Food Program, innovation, where we are basically encouraging young people to be engaged in agriculture. Through that, we'll be working through about 26 counties in Kenya to support young people, and especially young women, to be in agriculture. And you must be aware that women in agriculture has been on the lower manual jobs, harvesting, digging, we're trying to move them up in the value chain. And through that innovation challenge, we are not only going to provide financial inclusion, access to markets, but also is that we'll be able to reduce, the food harvest, the losses that happen within the food value chain. So I think we one of the organizations around that are very clear and intentional on focusing on young women.
Awesome, thank you. And I'll take it that was also your closing remark.
Yeah.
The slide. Yeah. Just
very quickly, Mike.
Yeah. At the beginning of this summit, I asked my staff to walk around the different exhibits and determine the proportion of young people, startups that are being exhibited. And what very small, even. And so I'm going to close one thing that in 2023 to change this. And it's good Tony is here. So my desire really by the next Kenya, we have, if you look at that journey, we have about 50 young startups that are exhibiting here. And that's the story that we are telling. To do that, as we just proposed a basic pipeline. MasterCard, Embassy of Ireland, all in a high school, and have, after that, have 1 week residential business coaching, so that by the time we have the next Kenya Innovation Week, we have startups that we are exhibiting here that are, but also if collect what doesn't to inform sort of business.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, time, so I won't even give you a minute to close. Sorry, but I think to gentlemen on the other side, I think it's about strategy. So you just have to create diverse teams which will have. Sorry, they'll have timelines because it's delivering the project. So it's about project management and making sure that people deliver whatever they're supposed to deliver within the expected time. I don't think being diverse or having them live is just a strategy and project management. Thank you so much. My panelists, please close. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we switch gears. Tony, am I allowed to switch gears? Okay. So next panel is very interesting. It's about the future. And what? Yeah, there's so much change in technology. There's so much change in business models. There's so much technology around us. I want to say something that could get people throw bottles at me. But is the education system actually supporting the kind of skills we're looking for? Universities are they equipped to give us the expected of the future. And to take us through this, I have the most controversial people in the room. Colonel Hillary Kipkoske, please join me here. Philip noisemaker and change maker as well. And Sheena, who is so dynamic. And otherwise, so 1 minute to introduce himself. Moving to the start with you, Philip, please.
Good morning. Good morning. Name is Philip Thiko. That's definitely Senior Director of Africa for the Harvard School. I'm also a senior advisor to the United Nations Development Program on data innovation. Now you realize we wear many hats.
Hi, my name is Sheena Raikandalia, and I also wear many hats. I'm the country director of the UK Kenya Tech Hub, so I work for the British government here in Kenya. I'm also a board member of Kenya, which is exciting, probably one of the most government agencies that hosted this awesome event, so I'm a bit biased. And I co-chair a donor board in Kenya, so we work with a lot of international donors.
Hillary Kipkoske. I refuse because of my discipline and background. Work for I'm the acting director general at the Kenya Space Agency, but also an active service personnel with the Kenya Defense Force. As you probably know, the Kenya Space Agency state operation within the Ministry of Defense. I think when they were looking for personnel to staff it, they went next door, which was the KDF. But that doesn't mean the Kenya Space and Defense Forces, they are purely a civilian, just like other state corporations. It just happens to be domesticated in the Ministry of Defense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brigadier, and the team. So beginners in this. Being jobs of the future. What does that even mean? What are we looking at?
In my understanding, we are looking at evolving technological field, and in particular, when we are looking at space, we are looking at the trends going into the future. And how is that future going to look like? And what skills are we going to require to be able to provide human resource to be able to provide that those capabilities? So if, for example, as Kenya Space Agency, we are concerned with how do we this capability? How are we able to, for example, launch our own satellites? How are we able to continue operating them? So those jobs that will ensure that there is continued manufacture, systems engineering to support those assets up there. That is the kind of vision that I have. We're also looking at, in terms of enhanced utilization across the board of space services and space-derived data. How do we sense of these enormous amounts of data that is out there? And what skills do we need to
be able to have the competencies to develop applications that better harness space-derived data. So we're looking at big data analytics, basically developing applications that connect with Wanjiku, so that Wanjiku sees the benefit of what space is.
That's a good question, and it's one that I think about quite a lot, which is what is the future going to look like? And it's of course very hard to predict. And I won't go into details of the fourth industrial revolution because my colleague Philip can speak on that. So I'll just take a slightly different take. If we think about Africa right now, right, we're the youngest population in the world, fastest growing population in the world. What's more interesting is we're also really, really fast. As a lot of us are living in rural areas, and there's lots of challenges in connectivity, etc. A lot of us are moving into urban areas. Now, once we move into urban areas, let's just say as we keep doing, what's the future 10, 20, 30, 40? And every time we think about automation, and automation has happened over the years, everybody worries, oh, jobs. So I do think about it. I'm like, I practiced as a lawyer in London for 10 years. 100%, I'm convinced. A lawyer tells me tomorrow she wants to be a lawyer, I could try and talk her out of it because job that's going to exist in the future. Because I've seen an awesome chat that just released can actually do a lot of these things faster and better than us. And I think about how now is automation will come and take over. See, a lot of these professional jobs that we've coveted, but what we do, I think, is what we do. I think being creative, collaborating, teamwork, obviously considered like soft skills. So if you look at our education system, it was all about cramming. Like it still annoys me that I know the Battle of Hastings was 1066. What a useless piece of information that is stuck in my head since I was maybe 8. I don't know now. Google can provide it quicker. So information. Collaborate. I need to be able to communicate. So I think the jobs of the future will be those jobs that a machine can't do that easily and that help do that. Because I still think automation will create a lot more jobs. There'll just be different types of jobs. And that's a good thing, right? Like long time ago, before the industrial, everybody worked in a factory. Just because, or typewriters came in, new jobs were created. What those kind of jobs would be, I mean, I have my ideas, obviously, but we don't think is in order to prepare for the jobs of the future, we as humans do better than machines. What are the skills and focus on those?
Thank you so much. Can I have that? I'm the death by slides, but a couple of things. As Sheena says, I'm going to talk about this revolution. I want to you talk about the future. You think it's 10 years from now. The future is. Let's start from there. The second thing, of course, is that when you talk about, I'm going to flip it a bit. People talk about future of work, so I'm going to talk about work of the future. The future is here, and so my second point basically is that then you are preparing for a future that is already unfolding and happening. And so how is highly consistent, and therefore there's potentially issues around displacement. And I'm not just talking about automation. I'm talking about just basically how technology in how we live, learn, work, communicate. Even work right now is really challenged to the extent that we in the jobs. And this is the controversial part where some parts of society are remaining behind, where some of us, even training data scientists, cannot get jobs because those in terms of their science. And so I just wanted to bring that in because many people think that when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, it's very it's the era now. So please remove technology from your head. This is the age we live in right now. And Sheena has mentioned automation. Secondly, I just want to move quickly in terms of the trends. And this room, you are basically the guys driving this revolution. And so around integration, many things are integrated. So if you think about it, you have to do multiple, you have to possess multiple skills to survive. So the job notion is gone. It's very much around skills and adaptability and very much about virtualization. The other piece, of course, is about It was mentioned yesterday that freelancing is going to be the thing. So this 8 to 5 notion, I think, is gone. I'm sure some of you are already doing 5 jobs in your office job, and you're just telling your bosses, sorry, I snitched on you. But making more money somewhere else than using resources from your jobs. If you are we work at coffee houses, co-working spaces, and all that. If you're still building that type of brick and mortar infrastructure, I apologize. I ran my school from a co-working space. That just tells you how many things are changing. Of course, some of us will work from home forever. So even basically how you manage talent. So we are losing jobs because people now self-directing very much around outputs. Quickly, and this is what I wanted to bring in, is you talk about the future. Sheena talked about automation. 52% of all can be automated right now because jobs that are repetitive and can be automated as we speak. If you have any of those jobs, please go find something else to do. I was told being controversial, it is the truth. Please find something else. 75 million will be disrupted. But the good news is that like there are new jobs and new skill sets. And so potentially, even as much as the old jobs that are associated with automation will go, are going, not will go, you can still skill, upskill, and reskill yourself with these new and emerging abilities and opportunities. So the thing is, even as we talk about skills, there's a machine as well. And this is what agility. That we must be agile in a way that we can skill, reskill, and upskill ourselves to be future ready. These are new concepts we are doing. And as I said, the future is now.
Awesome. That's a bit scary. Is it scary?
It's true.
It's true. So how do we create skills that we actually are not sure of the jobs they're going to be going for? Or
Out of this. I can try first. So I think I feel like I'm trying to talk to you, but like address this mic, and it's not really working. But so that's why I'm facing you, but responding to you. I think the thing that I think we've touched on it, and Philip's touched on it, is your mindset, right? We don't know, and it's very different. I'll give you an example. When I was growing up, I think about 4. I mean, look where I am now. But I thought, and did it. I did law. I did it for 10 years. I did this. I did this. My parents, my dad, and everyone was really, really proud of this. And that was what it was. One job for life. And that's all I was going to do. Come, my sister who's 10 years younger. I mean, she's had like 7. My father used to have a heart attack. He'd be like, but why? You haven't even been in this job for a year. Like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do? And the truth is that mind shift, even in the same generation of 10 years, that mind shift is changing. She didn't think she needed, she did a master's. She didn't think she needed work in the same job to move. So that mindset, luckily, is already there. There are opportunities, learning new things. Most with are so interesting because I think that resilience, curiosity is what we need to culture that. We need to cultivate that. How do we do that? Well, first of all, I think it starts from a very, very early age. Traditionally, particularly in African societies and to some extent in Indian society, the Asian societies, there was this you don't. I think we need to change that, right? And unfortunately is a prime example of this, questioning everything. But why? With how we raise our kids. If we raise inquisitive, asking questions, mind at thinking what to do better. So already having that you have to listen to. I'm not saying let's stop respecting elders, etc. I'm not saying completely change, but we have to balance that traditional hierarchy with that mindset. So when we design skills, when we work with existing institutions, whether it's universities, whether it's hubs, whether it's whatever it is, I think having that, I'm not,
here to give you a job. You could potentially go out and create your own job, or you can create jobs for others, but it's on you. It's empowering the first thing I would say, so many of these programs, let's change the mindset of it that we are not teaching you, we're just providing you with all the tools because you know what? You can do it yourself. That confidence, that inquisitive mind, that curiosity, that talking back actually. So we don't question. And I think that's
Okay. Brigadier?
That's a tough question. But I'm sorry because I'm with this Kenya Space Agency, so I'm looking my perspective purely through the lens of how do we create or facilitate, preparation for the future jobs that we are looking at in space. And example, we are looking at additive manufacturing. So these are trends that are already taking place, and the human technical, we're looking at how do we equip, how of curriculums that we have institutions to be able to prepare for that eventuality. And that maybe because this is the space that
But you see technologies like AI, the skill to do certain things within that space.
Absolutely. These are technologies that are, and in terms of even characterization, because you're looking at satellites that are kilometers away, right? And to be able to do better analysis or characterization of, for example, satellite images, you need those technologies like AI and machine learning. So I guess we're looking at the trend and how do we equip our youth with the necessary skills to give them that capability. So you laugh at this. So I'm from a university. And so I'm going to speak from that perspective because essentially university can speak for actually people for jobs. Now we are saying jobs are predictable, so it's basically how do you prepare people for skills. Unfortunately, our system to turn around skills for this revolution as fast as the needs of the market. So the first issue is how do we imagine our institutions of learning? We've had that debate, we've had that discussion. Like other universities, where we say universities make and we are very clear about that. But learning, because everybody now must learn. And I'm not looking at only because people like me who are being disrupted. And most likely we will not come back to work because we cannot learn new skills. So how do we prepare everybody for lifelong learning? So I think for me that's the capability that universities and institutions of learning must provide. It becomes like a train, right? You can get into one stop, you leave from another stop based on the opportunities that are emerging from the market. So this obsession of certification papers, we have to rethink that and reimagine that. I think for me, that's the first big thing. Because it's us who determine, somebody will tell you, you have 10 years experience. Shina is saying she's a trained lawyer, but now the sort of skill sets required are for call centers. So would you bring a law degree? You know what I mean? So how I think for me, that's the big disconnect. How do we imagine that also?
Awesome. So I'll open it up to the audience if there are some questions. There's a question there, and Philip, I'm told that there's a hashtag trending. Queer universities. Did you start it? Okay, yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. I'd like to come back to the question of how do we create skills for the future? And I think actually we should turn that around and talk about creating jobs for the future, because those two go hand in hand. And we have examples of where
people create jobs for the future. It's about creating a non-existent need to solve an existing challenge, or the two going hand in hand. So when we innovate, very often we talk about tackling a real life challenge. But if we think more broadly and more critically, because, and as Sheena said, it's also about developing critical skills, problem-solving skills, skills that allow people to think outside the box, people that allow people to think, to find, create the skills as you create that future that you want. So let me give you a concrete example. So for example, about, when I was growing up, without betraying my age, if I needed to meet up with a friend, there was a phone in the corridor, a landline, you call them, you plan, you're meeting on Saturday at 3 o'clock, you go there, you wait, they either show up. If they don't show up, you just go home. Now, none of that exists because we have iPhones. At that time, if you had asked anybody, do you need an iPhone? They would not even have thought why they would need it. So a need was created by creating, and you can imagine all the jobs that have come about because of that. The phone even has a camera, so you find people becoming influencers. They create their own jobs on the website and so on. So it's using technology. It's going to be the place where you'll have the majority of working populations in the coming years. So it's going to be us, possibly not me in particular, but younger people than me who will be creating the future.
Thank you. That's really good. I like that. There's another question behind that.
Good morning. My name is Caroline Wangeshi. I work for the UK Government Office of National Statistics. I'm working with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And just one comment, I think Sheena should be allowed to fly.
No. You don't want to do that.
I thought I'd be controversial as well. My question really is about, I like that comment about kind of changing mindset, but it's about bravery. Because I think even for people I was speaking to somebody and saying I'm thinking of quitting my job and met with shock horror that I don't want to continue in that sort of, one career for a lifetime kind of thing, even in this day and age. And I just wondered about young people, when we advise them, it is a risk that requires a lot of bravery for them to take a different route for a future they can't see and that isn't in the now, still for a workplace that asks for certifications and things of that nature. So what are the signals that allow young people to take that risk? Because it is a risk to university. I'm gonna, try and develop a new app or something like that.
Okay, so let's take that question, then we respond as we make our closing remarks.
I think that the jobs that we are looking into the future are machines, as we all agree. That is robotics and artificial intelligence machines. But there's one thing that we are forgetting, and that is the concept that develop those machines in the future. That is mathematics and algorithms. So we still have to go back to class and try to come up with algorithms and models that will be able to customize our problem. So the future is about mathematics, skill sets, and algorithms. And I think, again, maybe servicing those machines, because the future will be based on all of those machines, who will service them.
The self-servicing. The self-learning, self-servicing.
That's true, but then we will have to come up with teach systems that can service them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's respond to that and then also make our closing remarks. We start with Philip.
I think I agree, and there are generally comments and not questions. I think for me, overall, is that, and I've said, institutions of learning have to rethink how they deliver knowledge, but also how they credential for society. I think that's one proof for our young people. There's some things that will never change. We call them the backbone concepts. The backbone concepts are, discipline, the sort of in groups, working in teams. This is disappearing. So there's a potential that we need to retrain people on how to engage collaboratively, work in teams, and deliver value for society and manage themselves. We know that's very hard. So I think for me, and that's what I think we need to grow more. The third piece is that we need to ensure that the institution itself are adaptive to the extent that we just create a pathway within which young people can find ourselves. And for us as a university, I think we've done that. We just released yesterday, if you saw, one of the most controversial scholarships. It's 100 million. We're taking revenue from universities, but we're saying, get this to the hands of people. And so potentially people.
Great. And yeah, and I think thank you all for the comments. And one of the ones that really stuck by me is we can create our jobs for the future, but and I think that problem mindset, right? If I think about Kenya and Africa right now, one of the biggest issues I think about is over time. So it's food security. Like it really annoys me that we sit here in Kenya where we could feed the whole world, but actually people are starving in one country and in another country it's going to waste. That's a challenge. It's a data problem, it's a distribution problem, it's a logistics problem. It would be great to have not just feels fine. Let me take a course, or let me join Oxford for a year, or whatever it is. But I think also attitude towards failure, right? We have a very, so when I was a lawyer, my parents was that I was a lawyer, and I mean, I didn't really I was so proud. When I came here, I started my own startup, and I joined a fund. What? Like, what is happening? Where's that clear story? Lawyer was very important. Startup founder who failed. Don't tell anyone about that. Don't tell anyone about that. Another thing we need to do is, make it take risks. Let's not just start. I talked about this last time. I can't invent it. Women, role models. We can talk of role models. I was talking about you could be a dropout, you could be a graduate, you could be a PhD, you could be whatever it is, be successful, and there are lots of different ways. And as soon as you start doing that, I think you take that risk as universities, and other institutions as well. And that means we have to embrace I think ingrained in our traditional beliefs, our hierarchies, etc.
Yeah, it's difficult when you speak after very smart and making. But as part of my closing remarks, the challenge that I'm giving is that we should make all spaces space. When we say space, I'm talking of beyond 100 kilometers. So if we are thinking that space exploitation is a crucial of the wealthy nations, then it becomes like, an issue, continues to become an issue. But this is a reality that we are dealing with today. There are tremendous opportunities that are out there.
for some funding to do these two assignments. We got to a point where we put together the guidelines for these two. And if you have very well, like one, the head of state is very clear about the coordination. Today afternoon, we'll also be speaking this issue. In order for us to scale what we're doing, we've got to coordinate it effectively. So funding, which was originally supposed to you, but then coordinated by organizations of and state, organized a number of consultants to support this activity through the Kenyan agency. We've worked for several years. We've engaged a number of stakeholders. Lots of feedback has come through. This week, we're having the final stakeholder. So today, we release it. I will explain the context of it. All is that some elements of professionalization. So the principles so that then we start gathering information together in a systematic and structured way. So the toolkits for commercialization. So in order to give now the context of the actual work, this is what we do. Ibrahim, Dr. Ibrahim Nobat, who is the Assistant Secretary General at the Secretary of the Organization of Africa and Pacific, who are providing the administrative support towards this. And then we will also do with David Babe, who is the Director General of National Partnership of the Unit of 5 Science, Technology, Innovation, and Digitization, part of this kind of work. The consultants were led by a team from Kenya, working with colleagues as well as the UK. So can we play this video for Dr. Ibrahim Nobat? As the video comes up, it's my humble opportunity to invite Professor. On Tuesday, he rose up here as the board chair and he even gave a when we started this activity, not a board member, he was not a board chair of Kenya. He was a leading consultant in this area of commercialization. And so he led a team of consultants in this assignment. So at the right time, I'm going to invite him to make the presentation in his capacity as a lead consultant at that time. And then technically, he will be handing over that assignment to himself. So that he provides the operationalization of those guidelines. Professor Oglala, you are on as a consultant will come in a few minutes, and then you will transition as well. Are we there with the video? Yes. Good morning, everyone. Your yes, what we are what are you able to get the volume right? I believe that very good could be education, inclusive, guidelines, including
in the framework of this important event for the research and innovation ecosystem as the Kenya Innovation in Nairobi. One of the reasons why we launched in 2021 the support facility and the World Research and Innovation Program of the OECPS with funds from the European Union is that we firmly believe that research and innovation are key of sustainable, inclusive development in our member states. We are also convinced that Kenya deserves a better return on investment in research and development activities and a robust and well-functioning innovation ecosystem. Innovation hubs constitute the backbone of an innovation community as they play an important role in facilitating business startups and innovation. In Kenya, they have mushroomed rapidly across the country over the last 5 years from a few hubs to over 200. So much so that Kenya is now considered the tech hub for East Africa, even near the Silicon Savannah. But innovative new technologies also need to be underpinned by an appropriate business model because too often in Kenya, research outputs are not taken further down pipeline production. We hope that these guidelines will also support the country in both addressing the challenges that face technology transfer and commercialization at Kenya universities and research institutes, but also in supporting and safeguarding quality services that are offered to new and emerging businesses. These guidelines lay out a comprehensive set of reforms to boost collaboration between universities and industry and to drive commercial returns. But for these guidelines to be effective and have an impact required not only the commitment from the government and especially from the Kenya National Innovation Agency, but also to all of you as you are the key actors in research and innovation at national level. Ladies and gentlemen, we need robust and coordinated research and innovation ecosystems to rapidly find solutions to the current and emerging national and international challenges. We need to provide adequate support to innovators, unleash their talent, help them develop homegrown solutions with maximum impact in terms of job creation and societal benefits. I am confident that with the support of each of you and the operationalization of these guidelines, we can meet our objectives and face the challenges that lie ahead. I wish you a successful session and fruitful continuation of the Kenya Innovation Week. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thanks very much. As part of the team that provided the resources towards the exercise that we did, could you also listen briefly to Danny Bab?
Dear chairs of the experts panel, dear CEO of the Kenya National Innovation Agency, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Thierry Barbet. I lead the European Commission Service dealing with digitalization, science, technology, and innovation in the European Union International Partnership. I'm very happy to be with you from Brussels. I wish to extend on behalf of the European Union our congratulations for the successful fourth edition of the National Innovation Week in Kenya. We certainly appreciate that Kenya considered it worth including in the program a discussion on the outcome of two policy studies that the EU financially supported. We appreciate also the launch of the guidelines as outcome of these two studies. Allow me to frame this support in the wider perspective of the EU international and development cooperation on science and innovation. Horizon Europe and Erasmus Plus are financial instruments that higher education community and scientific community knows well. But there is another financial instrument of the interest of this community, Global Europe. Global Europe is by far the main instrument for EU bilateral and regional cooperation with partner countries and regions.